ejection of the season in last night's game against the New York Liberty. Reese was hit with 2 technicals for protesting a call. Part 1 of Clipped, the mini-series about former Clippers owner Donald Sterling, made its debut last night on Hulu. Lawrence Fishburne plays the part of former Clippers coach Doc Rivers in the 6-episode series. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, philosopher and journalist Barrett Holmes Pittner on how culture influences U.S. government policy. We will also talk about his new project called Reconstructionism, and we'll go inside his latest text, The Crime Without a Name, Ethnocide and the Erasure of Culture in America. That's in hour 2. In our third hour,
the girls got plenty good loving. Ask me how I know, and I'll tell you so. She used to be my girl. I respect her.
in our final hour today, we'll be joined by Eric Nolan of the Mighty OJs. Eric and I were hanging out recently in Memphis when I hosted the Blues Foundation's 45th Annual Blues Music Awards, and what a show that was. Let me tell you, the big winner that night this year was guitarist Christone Kingfish Ingram Are y'all hip to Kingfish? If you ain't, you need to be. He's the new BB King. His name is Kingfish, Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. He took away, I think, 4 awards that night. And let me tell you, Kingfish is a bad boy. Check him out if you haven't. So Eric and I were hanging out there recently. I look forward to Kingfish joining us on the show sometime soon. But where was I? Oh, yeah, hour 3 today. Hour 3 today, we will have Eric Nolan of the Mighty OJs with us. But Eric Nolan is not the only music guest joining us today in hour 3. We will also be joined in hour 3 by R&B legend Glenn Jones. Y'all ain't ready for this. The OJs and Glenn Jones in the same hour. I need to quit. Eric Nolan and Glenn Jones on their respective musical journeys as we celebrate June, Black Music Month. We'll talk about their respective journeys, as I said, and their work together. They have, Eric and Glenn, a project together. We'll talk about that once again as we celebrate June as Black Music Month. You know how we do it. All 3 hours of every program in June, we feature the music of a particular artist. Well, today, you just lucked out. We're going to play the best of the OJs and the best of Glenn Jones, all 3 hours of our program today. But in this first hour, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour. How do you lose a House seat in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but come back and win again? Well, that's exactly what State Senator Lucretia Ayer did, and it's a pretty fascinating story. She'll tell us all about it on the backside of this hour. But when we come forward, we'll commence today's show talking politics with Associate Professor and Founding Director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University, Michael Fontroy, when Tavis Smiley continues.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
KBLA delegation, listen up. Not feeling yourself lately? Has your weight loss dream turned into a weight gain, I should say, nightmare? Have you been chasing those 20 pounds for 20 years? Well, it's time for D-Herbs. D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse is a natural cleansing regimen that can help you lose 20 pounds in 20 days. The Full Body Cleanse will also boost your immune system and improve your digestion. With summer just around the corner, stop chasing that 20-pound weight loss and propel yourself into a healthier lifestyle. To reboot your system and lose weight, just go to dherbs.com. That's dherbs.com and order your Full Body Cleanse, or call 866-434-3727. If you mention Tavis Smiley, they'll give you a discount on your order. How about that? dherbs.com. Experience healing.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit-on-the-go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys.
Let's take our auntie to the swap meet.
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% plus finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California. Home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you black. Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
We will alternate the OJs and Glenn Jones all 3 hours of today's program in advance of our conversation with Glenn Jones and Eric Nolan of the Mighty OJs in our third and final hour today. But let's get started right now with Michael Fontroy. Dr. Fontroy, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, and I'm always doing better when I get to hear the OJ.
Man, I'm laughing and thinking about the OJs because I have been in the car, as you know, on more than one occasion with you and your twins. They're getting older now, but I used to laugh at your twins. Not laugh, I was tickled when they were just 5, 6, 7 years old, how they knew all the lyrics to all the old school R&B. You and your wife put that in them, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and it was purposeful. And I'm glad we did because it's always a great reflection. And to listen to Brett now, our son in particular, he's got all of the old school stuff. He's got all the 90s hip hop and R&B down. He's got all the 80s and 70s. He's locked in, and it's really good to watch.
Yeah, I was in the car one day with y'all in D.C. for something, and you just had some Stevie Wonder on. And I was just cracking up. They knew every lyric to every Stevie song. I was like, my Lord, that was...
And also a heavy dose of Bob Marley, by the way, a heavy dose of Bob Marley.
We'll get to Bob Marley this hour. Not this hour, this month, I should say. We're doing, again, a different artist every day. Today we got 2 artists, as I mentioned, but we'll do a different artist every day. We'll get to Bob Marley. Somebody yesterday, in fact, sent me a message. Is Bob Marley on the list for the month of June? And I said, we'll get to Bob Marley. So, Miles, make sure, don't make me a liar about that one day. We got to do Bob Marley for all 3 hours. Somebody check me on that to make sure that happens between now and the end of June. Anyway, so much to talk about with Michael Fontroy in the time that we have. Let me start with this. This is a big story yesterday, big story today. It seems that both parties are trying to have their say, trying to prove to the American people that they are serious about immigration. As you well know, we have no way at this moment to move toward meaningful immigration reform, but it's certainly become a political issue, a political football, if you will, during this presidential election season. So Donald Trump has promised that if he is elected or reelected, as it were, he, in fact, is going to deport millions of immigrants, as he says. Joe Biden, feeling the pressure from the right to do something on immigration, announced yesterday he was basically closing the border with Mexico to asylum seekers. Even as we just celebrated earlier this week, the first woman being elected as president of Mexico, Joe Biden kind of rains on that parade and says he's closing the border, our southern border, to asylum seekers. And I don't know what to make of this, and that is to say whether Joe Biden is now a sellout to all those Latino voters who supported him, many of them, as you know, drifting toward Donald Trump more. I don't know where you're going now because Trump says he's going to deport them and Biden's closing the border. If you're a Latino voter, I don't really know where you go if you are a single-issue voter on the issue of immigration. But I don't know whether to read this, Michael Fontroy, as Biden being a sellout or Biden being politically pragmatic. Your take?
It's pragmatism to me. I mean, you got an election to win. The Republicans are not serious about comprehensive immigration reform, and we know that because just a few months ago, they shot down a bipartisan bill that had been negotiated in part with Republican Senate leadership. So I'm not sure what Biden could do. I do know this is an issue on which he's very vulnerable, and there are no good choices. And so I think he took the least bad option, but he's got a problem here, of course, for a variety of reasons, one of which is there is a surprisingly durable position that the Trump campaign has been taking in favor of these completely unworkable things like mass deportations. So I think his hands are tied because he doesn't have the votes in the Senate to get a bill through that makes much more sense than anything else that we're hearing right now.
Yep. It's clear to me that Biden is trying to close a loophole. I guess the question is whether or not this dog will hunt, whether or not what he did yesterday, as we say, is the answer to the prayer, or whether it's going to cost him Latino voters. We all know how close this race is. All the polls and surveys and studies indicate that if the election, God help us all, if the election were held today, never mind the conviction, Donald Trump might win this thing if it were held today. And so it's going to be a tight race, and Joe Biden can't afford to bleed anybody. He can't afford to bleed black voters. Those numbers are soft. He's working at that. He can't afford to bleed Latino voters, and the numbers already indicate that these Latino voters are drifting ever so slowly, but certainly to the right anyway. I don't know what this does for Joe Biden's reelection campaign.
I don't either, and I think at this point it's a little early to draw any firm conclusions. This is such a sort of scrambled egg of an American electorate that looks very different than anything we've seen in recent presidential elections. And I'm always wary of people who say they know exactly where this is going to land, because I just don't see it. I mean, there's just not enough firm information that leads me to conclude one way or the other. One data point I saw recently, today is Wednesday, so it must have been over the weekend, that for the first time in about 8 years, there are now more registered Republicans than registered Democrats. Now, we don't know if that's going to change again, given what's happening with the conviction in New York with President Trump, and other variables for that matter. Who knows? But it's a warning sign. Conversely, you know, Republicans are expressing some concern to pollsters about voting for a convicted felon. And so I think there are a number of Republicans that are still up for grabs on this, and they're looking for a reason to go to Biden. And so some of this is just about trying to find out the best way to cook this egg.
The other part of the story is, and I've been reading this over the last 24 hours, there are a number of legal experts, Michael Fontroy, who disagree on this particular question, and that is whether or not the courts will ultimately uphold Biden's executive order. As you know, executive orders is what you use when you don't have the power to do anything else. You made that point quite clearly. He couldn't get anything on immigration passed through Congress, so he relies on an executive order. The question, though, is whether the court system, our judiciary, will uphold Biden's order. On the one hand, federal law calls for a generous approach to asylum claims. On the other hand, the Supreme Court recently ruled that immigration law exudes deference to the president. So the worst thing that could happen is that Joe Biden advances on this executive order and then he gets overturned. If that ain't, to your point, egg in the face, if that ain't a slap in the face politically, I don't know what is.
I agree. And if it gets to the Supreme Court, I'm certainly worried because I just think that from a legitimacy and credibility standpoint, the current Supreme Court has shown that it's willing to tilt things away from Biden and toward Trump. So I would be worried in that regard. Look, executive orders, this is really interesting to me, and this is something I teach in my presidency courses. Executive orders have been around since George Washington, right? And the only people that complain about presidents using executive orders is the other party, who is up in arms about a president using executive action. You may recall that Republicans were jumping up and down about that when Barack Obama was president. But they were, of course, completely silent when Donald Trump was doing that much and more. And so we'll see, but I will tell you that it's certainly something to watch.
Many Democrats support the president's move because they understand, as Michael and I were just discussing, that he has to be pragmatic on this issue. They believe between now and Election Day, progressives in the House and beyond very disappointed in this decision by the president. They think he went too far. Republicans, of course, are complaining and criticizing him for not moving fast enough. And so he's catching it from both sides. We will see. We will see if his threading the needle, or his attempt to thread the needle on immigration, will work for him or against him just a few months from now. But you clearly see the pivot he's trying to do on immigration. Speaking of pivoting, he's also pivoting.
Hold on just a second, Tavis. Hold on. Let me just add one quick piece to that.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, and this is to show you how sometimes optics take a higher precedence than actual data. The actual asylum seekers and those showing up at the border has been in decline for the last few months. Mm-hmm. But because the issue is so toxic and people are sort of in their own feelings about it, we're making decisions based on emotion and not data.
Yeah.
And that helps to explain some of Sister Jayapal and others on the progressive left in the Democratic Party being so upset with Biden. The problem, of course, is if the Republicans take control of the Senate and maintain control of the House, they're going to be complaining from the minority party status.
Yep. I used the word pivot a moment ago. There are a number of issues on which the president's pivoting, and this doesn't surprise you. You teach this stuff every day at George Mason. When it's election season, that's what you do. You pivot, if not do a complete 180. You do what you have to do. I don't think there's any real principle in that. I believe that politicians, like all the rest of us, should live our lives by a certain set of immutable principles. I ain't naive. Many politicians don't do that, particularly and especially in campaign season. So I ain't stupid. I ain't stuck on stupid. And yet the president is pivoting on a number of issues. But I'm not going to say stunned, Michael, but I'm curious to get your take on this. And I haven't heard a lot of talk about it as of yet, but I know that people are, I think, trying to figure out what it actually means. But yesterday, you saw the president in that interview, the story broke yesterday, he talked to Time magazine, and he made it abundantly clear that even he believes that Bibi Netanyahu is extending this war in Gaza, in Palestine, this war against Hamas. He is extending it, even as the president has called for a ceasefire. President Biden called for a ceasefire finally. He believes that Bibi is extending this politically for his own partisan and personal political agenda. He said that he believes that Bibi is extending this war for his own political reasons. That is a damning indictment of the leader of the state of Israel. And yet we keep sending weapons, and yet innocents keep dying, and yet you take my point. Here's what I'm driving toward. I used the word pivoting, and maybe pivoting is the wrong word. I also said thread the needle. Maybe that's the wrong phrase. Maybe it's just a flat out example of trying to have it both ways. You cannot keep supporting Bibi Netanyahu. You can't keep sending them weapons, but then tell the American people that you don't believe there's any genocide, that Israel have not crossed a red line, and now you tell us that you believe that he's advancing and continuing this war for his own political future. I don't know how you say all of that out of the same mouth.
Yeah, it's convoluted and it's complicated, and I think he's right about Netanyahu. By the way, Netanyahu's domestic political pressures are far more profound than Joe Biden's, in my view.
Almost as bad as Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, no question. Let us remember, 2 years ago, Netanyahu was on trial in Israel. That's
right. He's still facing jail, potentially, yeah.
Right. So I don't think there's any question about that. You know what, though, Tavis? I have come to a real place of transactional pragmatism around this. Mm-hmm. I don't like what is going on. I think there should have been a ceasefire almost immediately. I think that the destruction of what's going on to the Palestinian people is atrocious. I also think things would be consequentially different if Donald Trump were president. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean even worse. He would just give the West Bank and the Gaza Strip to Israel. And so I'm just wondering, I don't know what those of us who care about those people are to do, because Donald Trump or Joe Biden is going to be the next president. And one is making decisions we don't like, and the other one in my view, would be guaranteed to make even worse.
The part that turns my stomach, and that might be too strong a phrase. Let me back up a bit. But it does concern me, is that I see Joe Biden doing things. I like Joe Biden personally, but I see him doing things every day or every other day that I believe he's doing because obviously he's calculated that the other guy, to your point, is so much worse. He's calculated that now that he's a felon, a convicted felon, the fellow citizens Americans are not going to vote for Donald Trump. And I think because of that, because he really is getting more emboldened, that because of the competition, because of his opponent, that he can actually pull this thing out, you get these kinds of statements. But I must tell you, if Donald Trump were not his opponent, I can't imagine that more folk, well, let me rephrase that. I'd like to imagine that more people would be taking the president, with all due respect, to task for making these statements all over the map. I repeat again, you cannot come out and I don't even know why he said it. I mean, it just doesn't seem strategically smart. It certainly isn't on message. Why would you publicly say that you believe that Bibi is extending this war? Let me put a finer point on it, which means that you believe that he's allowing innocent women and children to continue to be murdered for his own political future, to protect and save his own hide, so that he can stop and stave off, as Donald Trump is trying to do, the trials and comeuppance and reckoning that he's going to face in Israel, in the streets of Israel every day, in Jerusalem and beyond, Tel Aviv. These protests in the streets are growing against Bibi because they realize, because see, it's not just Palestinians who are dying. It's Israeli soldiers. It's Israelis who are dying. Israeli soldiers and hostages who are dying. And so the Israeli people have started to figure out that Bibi is allowing our brothers, our sisters, our family members to die in this war that he keeps extending because he's trying to protect and preserve his own political future. But when the U.S. president comes out and says that, I don't know any other way to read that, Michael, than I mean, I'm rambling, but you take my point. I don't even know what to say about it at this point.
No, listen, man, I hear you. I feel you on that. For some things, there are no great answers, or no answers that we like, and sometimes that's just what it is. And I think this is one of those cases. You mentioned what's going on domestically in Israel. You may recall the name Benny Gantz, who's a very prominent Israeli political leader who's threatening to withdraw from the coalition that Netanyahu leads. And if he leaves, then the Israeli government may well collapse, and you have to have elections to rebuild. And so we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, because you're right. If he leaves, he's taking 6 votes with him. That's the thing. It's not just him. Right. If Benny Gantz has said that he will leave Netanyahu's coalition government if Netanyahu agrees to this ceasefire. So I'm not unsympathetic to the position that Netanyahu is in, but that's his issue. What I'm talking about is the American president and our forthcoming election, and how you take a leader seriously when he tells you that he knows a war is being extended. And again, he can take up residency, Michael, if he wants to, in Michigan. But you keep making statements like that yesterday, your chances of winning Michigan aren't going up. In my view, they're going down.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, they may be making a calculation that they may go up somewhere else.
Yeah, well.
And I don't know. I'm not in the room.
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of politics. But as you know, there are people running numbers in rooms in both campaigns trying to figure out what are the battleground states that we need, and of those that we need, which ones can we get?
I'm out of time right now, but as of this moment, there's breaking news that pro-Palestinian protesters have barricaded themselves inside the Stanford University president's office. So we thought that these college protests were dying down and over. Not so fast. The students at Stanford have now taken over the office of the president. The cops have been called in. We shall see what happens in Stanford in the hours or days to come. For now, I thank Michael Fontroy for sharing his political insights. We'll do it again many times between now and November. Michael, I appreciate you. All the best to you.
Thank you, man.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish,
Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thanks for sharing a part of your Wednesday with us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to approve a $17 billion investment deal with Disney World. The New York Sun says the deal will be announced today that could include new additions to the theme park, as well as commitments from Disney to help develop housing for its employees, with Florida promising to maintain the necessary infrastructure for the park. We're now learning that Sean Diddy Combs is selling his stake in his media company, Revolt. Facing multiple lawsuits accusing the African-American rapper of sexual assault, Sean Combs agreed to separate from the company he founded. Revolt began more than a decade ago, meant to be a music industry-focused cable channel promoting black representation. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live U.S.-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congrats to the Angels and manager Ron Washington. The Angels' second straight victory over San Diego Tuesday night gives the Angels their first series win at home this season. The Angels have been struggling at home with a 9-21 record, the worst in the major leagues. The Dodgers were shut out for the fourth time this season. Pittsburgh needed only one run to get the win. The Dodgers were 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. More drama for WNBA rookie Angel Reese. The Chicago Sky forward suffered her first ejection of the season in last night's game against the New York Liberty. Reese was hit with 2 technicals for protesting a call. Part 1 of Clipped, the mini-series about former Clippers owner Donald Sterling, made its debut last night on Hulu. Lawrence Fishburne plays the part of former Clippers coach Doc Rivers in the 6-episode series. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When I move my body, I feel like freedom. Happy anniversary, KBLA.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
And they wondered if a black talk radio station would work in Southern California.
Y'all did it!
Well, KBLA Talk 1580 toasts its 3rd anniversary on Juneteenth, and you're invited to celebrate with us.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, y'all the bomb!
All you have to do is go to KBLA1580.com right now and sign up. Admission is free, but mandatory, and space is limited. Once we reach capacity, we'll have to cut off the online registration, but it's open right now.
Oh my God!
So don't delay.
Thank you guys for being the best at what you do.
Log on to KBLATalk1580.com right now and register to join us for an afternoon of good music, good people, and good vibes.
Happy anniversary.
Wednesday, June 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will provide the food and drink, but be sure to bring your low back chairs, blankets, and your personal educational picnic baskets.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's celebrate 3 years of being the most trusted, credible, and reliable source of news and information.
We love you, KBLA.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're black and stride again.
Black and stride again.
Happy anniversary.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now. Right now.
That is appropriate. We've only just begun in today's program, and I got so much love to share throughout the 3-hour program today. This is June, and you know June is Black Music Month, and so every day during the month of June, we feature a particular artist, and we play their music all 3 hours of our show, weaving in and out of these brilliant conversations with these amazing guests. And today, we are weaving in the music of both R&B legend Glenn Jones and the OJs. Why? Glad you asked. In case you've just tuned in, we'll be joined by Eric Nolan of the Mighty OJs and Glenn Jones together. They have a new project out, and we'll be talking to both of them about their musical journeys and playing a lot of their music in the third and final hour today. So today, it's Glenn Jones and the OJs. We're alternating some of the best of these great artists on today's program as we celebrate June as Black Music Month. We continue now talking politics. We thank Michael Fontroy for that conversation. And now joined by Virginia Senator LaSharice Aird. I mentioned earlier that it's always fascinating to me when you see someone run for office, win, lose, and come back and win again. The first question is, why are you coming back? Politics for so many people is such a cesspool these days. I digress on that point. But it's not easy to get elected the first time, much less to lose, get pushed out, and come back and do it a second time successfully. So how do you lose a House seat in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but then come back and win a Senate seat? LaSharice Aird can tell us how she did it. It's a pretty fascinating story. Senator, good to have you on. How are you today?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity to connect again.
No, it's good to hear your voice again. Good to have you back on. So I was about to ask, as any good comedian would, and I'm not a comedian. So what you been up to lately?
A little too much. You know, in Virginia, we are a part-time legislature, and we are supposed to adjourn after we finish adopting a budget. But in Virginia, we've decided we want to stay in session for the rest of the year. So we have been going a bit back and forth, if you will, trying to address various issues. But I'm keeping busy in that way. But I love the way you opened up the conversation, talking about how do you go from serving to not serving to serving again. And I want to touch on that a bit and say that I love my 6 years in the House of Delegates, got a lot of great work done. We went through redistricting in Virginia, and the numbers that in that district that I represented were a little less conducive to a Democrat, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I thought about finding other ways to serve and other avenues of leadership, but there was just someone who threatened something that was so critical at this moment in time in the Commonwealth, which is access to reproductive rights, that I could not sit on the sidelines. He was the last anti-choice Democrat in Virginia, and I gladly took him out.
When you serve in the House and step away, as I mentioned a moment ago, and decide to come back, you sort of unpack that. But this I used to believe that politics was a noble profession. There's a part of me that still believes that politics is a noble profession when done right. And I always make a clear distinction between politicians and public servants. They're not the same thing to me.
Yeah.
We have far too many politicians and not enough public servants. And public servants are persons who I believe advance a notion of servant leadership. That's why they're public servants. They believe in servant leadership. We got too few of those, and too many politicians. I always make that distinction. But when you thought about getting back in, beyond what you've just shared, were there thoughts about why am I doing this? This again, for many people, is like this game is like a cesspool these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head in asking your question. At the end of the day, this work is about putting people first. It is about uplifting communities, and quite frankly, you're absolutely correct. We don't have enough people in elected office that are truly doing that work. But I just have to speak more to the specific dynamic in Virginia. Again, as a result of redistricting, we had an opportunity to make a sea change in our legislature, both in the House and the Senate, because you had so many representatives drawn into the same district, people being primaried and challenged, that the makeup of the body was going to absolutely change. And that is exactly what we saw. For the first time in decades, you have just an unfathomable number of individuals who have taken seats that were long time held by career politicians, if you will. And so I wanted to be part of that sea change, because that is where the work actually has a real chance of getting done.
Yep. What does the Black Caucus look like in the state of, in the Commonwealth of Virginia? I was just in a conversation the other day. I think it is still the case that Mississippi, believe it or not, Mississippi, the state of my birth, still has more black elected officials statewide than any state in the country. I think they still are number one in that particular category. But what's the Black Caucus look like in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yeah. So as a result of this last election cycle, we now have 32 members of the Black Caucus in Virginia. I know we were long chasing after Maryland, so I'd be curious about what that number is, and then the Mississippi number.
Yeah, so you should have your aide look it up, and I'll have my staff look it up so we can find out where
we'll compare numbers.
Yeah, see where the Commonwealth is on the list. When we come forward, I do want to ask you what the Commonwealth is looking like these days. Nobody is prepared to call Virginia a purple state by any stretch, and yet, depending on the election, depending on the season, Virginia can be more red or less red. At times, it's been all-out blue. That happens infrequently. But I am uncertain as to what the Commonwealth of Virginia looks like in terms of its color, in terms of its shade, as we move toward the presidential race in November of this year. We'll get that answer from Senator Aird and more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here, inviting you to join me for a historic conversation featuring an all-star panel of black thinkers about the urgency of now, climate justice. It's all going up Tuesday, June 18th, live on C-SPAN, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific. The nation has never seen a stage full of brilliant black folk talking about the impact of climate change on our community. But we're going to flip the frame Tuesday evening, June 18th, live on C-SPAN.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Senator LaSharice Aird, senator in the Commonwealth of Virginia, who was in the House of Delegates for 6 years or so, and ended up coming back to be in the state Senate. I've been asking her why she opted to do that when you were out. Why did you stay out? But I'm glad she's back in. She's one of those public servants as opposed to those politicians I was referencing earlier. And I want to get her take on the Commonwealth. Every state in this election matters. There are some states that are foregone conclusions. I think if you were talking to Joe Biden right now, he'd tell you that the state I'm sitting in right now, California, is definitely in his column. He'd tell you that New York is in his column. He'd run the list of those states he knows he's going to win. And if Donald Trump were here, he'd tell you the states he knows he's going to win. But there are a few of these states, as we all know, that are swing states. I'm thinking now places like Michigan and Wisconsin. But Virginia is an interesting place because, again, I would not be so bold as to call it purple, but it certainly has different shades of red and different shades of blue over time. So, Senator Aird, what's the Commonwealth looking like to your mind this election year?
I mean, the one thing I think we can both say for sure is anybody who would like to categorize Virginia as blue would be mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are sitting in a governing structure where we have a Republican governor, you have a Republican lieutenant governor, and a Republican attorney general, while you have a Democratic legislature. So when you talk about the structure of Virginia, you've got pockets of blue, but when it comes to statewide office, I don't think anyone would have said they saw a Republican sweep coming during our last statewide election. And so Virginia is one of those states where Democratic support is possible, but not without significant work. And so we can never get comfortable, as we saw during our last statewide elections, which resulted in Republicans taking our 3 top statewide positions, but having a Democratic General Assembly.
Yeah. I've got a number of great photos in my office, a number of nice photos in my library and other places in my office and at my home. But one of my favorite photos is a picture of me as a much younger man standing between two brilliant black public servants. One named Tom Bradley, who at the time was the mayor of L.A., for whom I worked, and the other is a guy named L. Douglas Wilder, who was running for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's a great photo of me standing between. I think the only photo.
Special.
Yeah, the only photo I might like better than that of me standing between two people. I got a picture of me standing between Portier and Ali, Sidney Portier, Muhammad Ali, in between the two of them. But that photo.
Those are true competitors.
Yeah, that photo of Tom Bradley and L. Douglas Wilder means a lot to me. As I said, I was an aide to Tom Bradley, who ran for governor here in California and literally lost being the first and would still be the only black governor of the state of California. He lost that race, Senator Aird, by less than 1 vote per precinct. Not even 1 vote.
Wow.
He lost it by less than 1 vote per precinct here in California. Of course, L. Douglas Wilder, who was in California, in L.A. for a fundraiser that the mayor was spearheading. I was there as the mayor's aide. He went on to win that election, of course, as the governor of the Commonwealth and made history as an African-American governor in that particular state. My question is whether or not we will ever, into the future, see another African-American governor of the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia.
I think that there is great potential for such, but we are living through such divisive times that we have a lot of work to do here in Virginia to move beyond, I think, those challenges. When you start moving west, not West Virginia, but to the western portions of Virginia, that is where you see a lot of red. They're not, it's not blue in between, it's deep, dark red. And until we're able to overcome those demographics and the positions and perspectives of the voters in that part of the state, it will continue to be a challenge.
Our remaining moments with Senator LaSharice Aird in the Commonwealth of Virginia when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, this is Quentin. A little thing I love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips are how satisfying they are. The chicken strips are amazing. They're always filling, crispy, tender, and juicy. Definitely one of my favorite things on the menu. Especially when you add in that Chick-fil-A sauce. Always the perfect combination. And then personally, you know me, I'm getting a 4 count. I want as much chicken as possible. I'm that guy. Whenever I get them, whether it be lunch or for dinner, in my household, it's always a winner.
Order the chicken strips on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customer paid for their testimonial.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in conversation for 3 or 4 more minutes here between now and the top of the hour with our guest, Virginia Senator Lasha Reese Aird. When you were elected to the Virginia House of Delegates, we discussed that earlier, you held the distinction as the youngest woman ever elected to that body. That got you on the cover of USA Today as their Woman of the Year. So you've already accomplished a great deal in your career on the House side. Now, of course, you're on the Senate side again in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I raised that one to just remind the audience or share with the audience what a rock star you are, number one. But number two,
thank you.
Number two, you're on so many lists of rising Democratic stars around the country. There's all kind of conversation about that, of course, because people are, Joe Biden is the nominee. There's no question about that. He's the presumptive nominee.
Right.
But as you well know, there's been all kind of conversation about whether or not he, should have stepped aside for somebody else. My point here is that there is a good bench. The Democratic Party has a strong bench, as I see it, around the country. You're on that bench, but in particular, I'm curious as to what you'd say to or about black women in elective office.
Yes. I mean, there is no shortage, in my opinion. I agree with you. There is no shortage of talent. And I think it goes without saying that for a lot of our Democratic leaders that are in place, federal, state, local, it doesn't matter. Black women voters, as you know, as the largest voting bloc, is largely responsible for putting many of those Democratic leaders there. And so we can't overlook the fact that they're not only great supporters, great voters, but we are great leaders. I think that right now in this moment, we are seeing an unprecedented number of Black women rise to positions of leadership. And I'll just name, the one I'm most excited about right now, which is Angela Also Brooks, who we hope to get her over the finish line into the United States Senate because we need more Black women in those positions in the United States Senate, But then also just generally, when you have a Black woman in elected office, it looks different. It feels different. The policies that show up are different. For me, that has looked and has been centered around maternal health. It has been centered around, childcare, and it's been centered around just being compassionate in the policies and supports that we have in place for families. So without question, I think that this has been a long time coming to allow for Black women to, not really allow for, but to make space for Black women to ascend to these positions. And I think we're seeing that happen in real time. But the work is not done yet.
It is also centered around your ability and your leadership in helping the Commonwealth of Virginia make history with the passage of Breonna's Law prohibiting the use of no-knock search warrants. That's what happens when Black women are in office. They can honor the lives of other Black women with a good public policy like Breonna's Law, again, prohibiting the use of no-knock search warrants in the Commonwealth of Virginia. When you come on again, we'll have to talk about this dichotomy of Black women being that voting bloc, as you mentioned, that gets other folk elected, but not getting themselves elected to enough offices in this country. We'll talk about that part, as they say, when you return.
We don't have enough time for that today.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. Until then, thanks for your time and congratulations and all the best to you.
Thank you.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thanks for sharing a part of your Wednesday with us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to approve a $17 billion investment deal with Disney World. The New York Sun says the deal will be announced today that could include new additions to the theme park, as well as commitments from Disney to help develop housing for its employees, with Florida promising to maintain the necessary infrastructure for the park. We're now learning that Sean Diddy Combs is selling his stake in his media company, Revolt. Facing multiple lawsuits accusing the African-American rapper of sexual assault, Sean Combs agreed to separate from the company he founded. Revolt began more than a decade ago, meant to be a music industry-focused cable channel promoting black representation. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live U.S.-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congrats to the Angels and manager Ron Washington. The Angels' second straight victory over San Diego Tuesday night gives the Angels their first series win at home this season. The Angels have been struggling at home with a 9-21 record, the worst in the major leagues. The Dodgers were shut out for the fourth time this season. Pittsburgh needed only one run to get the win. The Dodgers were 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. More drama for WNBA rookie Angel Reese. The Chicago Sky forward suffered her first ejection of the season in last night's game against the New York Liberty. Reese was hit with 2 technicals for protesting a call. Part 1 of Clipped, the mini-series about former Clippers owner Donald Sterling, made its debut last night on Hulu. Lawrence Fishburne plays the part of former Clippers coach Doc Rivers in the 6-episode series. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
When I move my body, I feel like freedom. Happy anniversary, KBLA!
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
And they wondered if a black talk radio station would work in Southern California.
Y'all did it!
Well, KBLA Talk 1580 toasts its 3rd anniversary on Juneteenth, and you're invited to celebrate with us.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, y'all the bomb!
All you have to do is go to KBLA1580.com right now and sign up. Admission is free, but mandatory, and space is limited. Once we reach capacity, we'll have to cut off the online registration, but it's open right now.
Oh my God!
So don't delay.
Thank you guys for being the best at what you do.
Log on to KBLATalk1580.com right now and register to join us for an afternoon of good music, good people, and good vibes.
Happy anniversary.
Wednesday, June 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will provide the food and drink, but be sure to bring your low-back chairs, blankets, and your personal picnic baskets.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's celebrate 3 years of being the most trusted, credible, and reliable source of news and information.
We love you, KBLA.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're black and stride again.
Black and stride again. Happy anniversary.